Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. Tiny Terry's Turbo Trip. The game begins with us sitting in the waiting room at some sort of job search office talking to this guy named Granny. Granny asks us what we're looking for in a job, and we say we're really not super interested in a job per se, we more just want a car that we can drive up into space. Pretty normal stuff we've got going on here. We get called up to the front desk, but as we're leaving the conversation, Granny asks if we'd be interested in taking down his phone number so that we could call him in the future and have another great chat. Except his phone number is 1. Just 1. That's kinda weird, but maybe he got the first telephone or something. Spapupli at the front desk asks us what kind of job we're looking for, and we tell her the same thing, we just want a car. So she recommends a taxi service that is looking for a new driver. That'll get us a car, so obviously we want to go along with that. Spapupli walks away to try to lead us to the person we need to interview with, but we decide to take a little peek behind the desk and we find a bunch of these little blue items scattered around the room. We run around and collect them because they look like a collectible, and it turns out these are going to be the main collectible in the game called Turbo Junk that we need to collect. Anyway, we head to the back room and talk to the taxi boss called Zamurapafi, who tells us that we can get a car if we work for them. We tell them we're not super interested in a job, we just want the car, but also the money might be nice, but we really mainly want the car, and for some reason they decide to actually give us the job as a taxi driver, despite having never driven a car or even having a license. They give us a little taxi cab that we're going to be able to drive around. We earn the achievement, "You got a job," with the subtext, "and you will never do it." This is a big sign of things to come. We return to the lobby to tell Granny the good news, but he seems to have walked away. But we won't let that slow us down, and we head off into the open world of Spranklewater. We step outside of the job center and we get our first look at our new ride, even with a customized license plate. Now that is riding in style. At this point, we can pretty much go do whatever we want. We are in the open world at this point, but we're gonna spend a little bit of time walking around on foot. We hop in our car for a second and get a message about how traveling long distances are best in the car. And then I see an actual working elevator and I get distracted by that and hop back out of the car. Oops. When I went down the elevator, I kinda thought I was heading into a little bit of a weird area and this wasn't the intended path, but I actually end up finding the pipe that we can use to hit items in the environment. This is a pretty key item, so surprised that I found it down here, honestly. But as we continue walking around down here, it becomes clear that this was an intended path as we get achievement number 2, Shovel, for picking up the shovel we can use to dig up little holes in the ground. And this shovel will be pretty useful as we can dig up these little mounds of dirt where the wealthy citizens have tried to hide their cash away. So this game is all about collecting those little blue junk items to upgrade our taxi so that we can head into space. And the way that we find those are hidden throughout the world and also from doing little quest lines that we can find throughout the world as well, such as talking to these cool truckers in the back of this truck. We also earn achievement number 3, Junk Enthusiast, for collecting 50 turbo junk before we've even really gotten into anything. So at this point, with the open world open to us, we could pretty much go and do anything, but I decided to avoid hopping in my car for as long as I could, and instead I just walked around the area that we started at looking for these dirt piles we could dig up to get some fast cash. And another thing we can dig up are in the center of these suspiciously placed circle patches. If we dig right in the center, we will pull up some turbo junk, so we need to find all of these as well. At the end of the road we started walking down, we find our first junket with Jack. Jack is the main vendor of the game who has a lot of different items we can purchase with the cash that we earn throughout the world. And some of these are going to be very helpful for us in the long run, so we're going to need to come back here in a little bit when we've got some more stuff. It's also worth noting that up to this point, I have been manually switching my pipe and my shovel between my hands every time I need to switch them. And I was thinking, man, this is a really clunky system. I wish there was a hotkey. Turns out there is, but I won't find it until much later. We stumble upon a weird stone mushroom, which prompts us with a quest to solve the mystery of the stone mushroom, so I guess we'll come back here later. And while doing some street redecorating, we accidentally hit someone with a pipe to earn the achievement Dominance. There's also a hat shop in this game. This doesn't super matter, honestly, but it's worth mentioning because there'll be an achievement for it later. Leaving the hat shop, we earn the achievement Youch, where we earn that cactuses actually hurt in this game, and they cost us a little bit of money too. After that, we accidentally walk into a big speech that the mayor is doing for a couple of citizens, doing the big unveiling of the new Sprankle Water Sky Tower that's been built to impress all of the other towns in the nearby area. The tower has a very large road going up the side of it that goes all the way up into space, and this gives us a little bit of an idea. We're looking to get into space, and there's a big road that would lead us right up there if we had enough power in our car. So maybe there's something we could do there. After giving us this super helpful key piece of information, the mayor inflates himself and then floats off into the sky, earning us another achievement, and this will be the last time we see him. You can Google mayor inflation for more information on that. After that, we get into a little bit of a seedier part of town where we meet this guy named Steel Keys, who is a criminal looking for a new partner in crime. Except crime is legal in Sprankle Water, so things are a little bit muddy. He wants to do some bad stuff, but nothing that will harm anybody or risk violence, so we'll need to go out and find some plans that we can work on with him. We also find a shopkeeper named Olger who has this weird music box thing, I guess? But Olger mostly seems like a hint guide. This is not really what we want. Maybe if we get super stuck, we'll come back here, but we're kind of trying to do things as they come up. So maybe we'll come back here later, but probably not, right? The final relevant shop in this area is owned by Patera. Patera is a pet store owner, but when we come in asking for a pet, she's a little bit concerned that we're not ready for that level of responsibility. She says if we can find the blueprints for her patented jelly pet designs, though, she could whip one of those up and we could have one of those. They're just like a real pet, but without the responsibility. Guess we'll need to keep an eye out for that as well. We take a quick stop by what I would soon realize is City Hall, and we find that there's not a whole lot going on in here. There's a piece of paper floating in the wind, and a bunch of guys standing around yapping about something. Maybe we'll have to come back here later as well. We earn the achievement Junk Hunter for collecting a total of 450 turbo junk. This is kind of a weird number considering there isn't another one of these numerical junk achievements, and there's 2,400 total. We've got a little bit of spending money in our pockets now, so we decide to stop by another one of Jack's shops where we can buy the junk detector hat. This seems like it will be really useful for finding all of the pieces of junk that are scattered throughout the world, as it will beep when we get closer to them. This will be a little bit annoying when we haven't fully explored anything at this point, but at least we earn the achievement Hat Enthusiast for buying a hat. Also, side note, this is the point where it told me about the hotkeys in the game. I assume it's keyed to when you buy something from a shop for the first time, and I just held off on doing that for quite a while, so joke's on me. We also bought the bug net to start working on a few of the other quests as well. We stop back by City Hall and catch those plans that we saw floating around the room before. And we return to the beach to collect the first jelly pet blueprint. Not going to include all of these, but just know we're looking out for them now. Continuing on, we find ourselves at an elementary school, and there just so happens to be a big group of kids at the back that invite us to play orange soccer. The game is pretty much what you think it is, soccer with an orange. But this game isn't actually as easy as I kind of expected it to be. It's a little bit of a struggle ending 2-1, but we do earn the achievement Citrus Kicker for winning the game in the end. And after stepping off the school grounds, we catch our first insect, surprisingly using the net for its intended purpose for the first time, earning us the achievement Insect Enthusiast. We learn that we need to respect traffic laws the hard way. We stop by Zumapupfari's shop, who is still trying to get us to go out and do our taxi duties, but we say we just want to make our car go faster. They respond that if we bring them 150 turbo junk, they'll start upgrading our car. We could do that right now, but I kind of wanted to hold off for a little bit and get more collected so that I could turn it in all at once. So we'll definitely be back here in a little bit. At this point, I've pretty much done a loop of the entire top part of the map, so I decided to take a look in my inventory at all the things I've collected, and I realized that I've had a cell phone this whole time. I go ahead and type 1 in, and naturally that dials Granny. We earn the achievement ... 1 here as we get into our conversation with him. Looking at the menu, Grani pretty much seems like he's another hint guide, which is a little bit weird considering we already found one of those, but we can kinda talk to him about other stuff at least, so we wear out the conversation that we can make before we hang up. Now that we're back at the start, we stop by the truckers once again with a little bit more fungible assets, and we can buy their junk off of them. Except they don't have it on hand, they point us to a place in the desert where we can go find it. But that's actually okay because we need to go down there anyway. We dig at the spot that the mark on the map suggested, but this weird gear thing just pops out. Not sure what to do with this, so we'll come back later. Now that we're down in this kind of desert beachy area, we're taking our time looking around when we spot some crabs dancing in the distance. We swim out to them, scaring them away in the process, and find that they've been guarding a large stack of money. But luckily for us, this is actually an achievement spot as well, called Crab Enthusiast. That's pretty neat. I also learned down by all of this water that the taxi does not like heading into the ocean. I kind of felt like this was the kind of game where if you went over water, it would just act like a boat or something. I don't know why I expected that. But if you go into water, it warps you back towards the main part of the city and you have to pay a little fine, so we won't be doing that again. But while we're back in the city, we can go ahead and buy the paraglider from Jack, the last relevant upgrade that we need and something that can help us glide for longer distances while we're in the air. And actually, speaking of Jack, we meet another guy named Jack Latter. We'll call him Jack Latter. He lives in our building and he's around our age, except there's one key difference between us. His dad has a side hustle where he steals cars and then rehomes them, let's say, and that could make us a pretty tidy profit. So now at this point, Jack Latter tells us that if we can bring him some cars, his dad can help us fence them and we get to split the profits. Pretty good racket for us. After that, we find an entrance to this weird hotel-looking building, maybe? Things suddenly become much more clear though when we approach one door in particular and we actually have a key to get inside. Now, everything's legal in this city, so maybe we were just breaking and entering, but when we sit down on the couch, we earn the achievement Home Sweet Home, so we can pretty much understand what happened here. This room is basically where the entire story of this game gets told. We find a note from our parents on our kitchen table where our mother says that we weren't able to go on their big holiday trip that we've been looking forward to with them because our grades in school are so low. We were supposed to stay here and be going to summer school, but Terry doesn't want to do that. We want to become famous another way that doesn't involve going to school, and that's why we came up with the plan of heading into space. And additionally, our father tells us that he asked our Uncle Grani to keep an eye on us while they were out of the town. So things have suddenly made a whole lot more sense, especially when he tells us that Uncle Grani is registered on our phone as 1 at the speed dial. I'm really glad they addressed that. Our parents' pleas to head to summer school kind of fall on deaf ears, but we are not entirely without responsibility as we stop in to feed our fish. This earns us the achievement Fish Fries. We exit our apartment and we find a car that's been chained up out in front of the building. This is how all cars have been up to this point, but I didn't really think about it. I thought it was just a way to show that we couldn't take every car in the game, but now that we've got that message about selling stolen cars, things begin to click. We head down to the beach and meet maybe my favorite, completely non-consequential side character in the game called Burning Birdie, a guy who's laying out on the beach and his face looks like it's gonna catch on fire. We try to warn him, but he doesn't want to hear it, and the game tells us to check back in later, so you know we definitely will be. We also stop by the only restaurant in town operated by a guy named Sneckfret. Now it turns out that Terry has a lifetime supply of something called beach fries that are being sold here, and this has put Sneckfret's business at risk, so Terry decides to help him brainstorm an idea for a new business model. We have a conversation where we convince Sneckfret to make bug buns instead while we supply him the bugs. This conversation takes way too long. It was really dragging in a way that none of the other conversations in this game did, but for whatever reason we're going to skip over that and we just get the reward at the end, which is another one of those glowing circles to investigate. We go ahead and dig this junk up as well, but this time it clicks with me that maybe I should hit it with my pipe. And that brings us into this weird kind of dream sequence where we can hit the junk over and over again to get all of the little pieces of junk out of it. This will be true for basically every quest in the game. It leads to a bunch of these little trash can things, and these each give 50 to 100 junk a pop, so they're very important. That pretty much does it down by the beach for now, so we return up to Steel Keys in the center of town and we give him that government document we found floating around City Hall. This document just happens to tell Steel Keys that the government is massively in debt after the construction of the big Sky Tower. And everybody wants to know this information, so this is just the kind of thing Steel Keys has been looking for. Quest done. Starting a game like this that has a unstuck Terry button in the escape menu was a little bit concerning at first, but it turns out that it actually does come up from time to time, weirdly enough. We wander around some nearby grass and we earn the achievement Insect Ambassador for carrying around a bunch of different kinds of insects. There's only one question mark person left on our map, so we decide to head over to the roof of a nearby hotel where we meet this guy named something. I don't know. He's leading a yoga session where he's trying to teach people about getting rid of their physical possessions, such as junk, which is the exact opposite of what we want to do. So he agrees that if we can master doing the yoga with him, he will tell us where he's hidden his junk. That's not right. That can't be right, right? The yoga minigame is actually pretty easy, but for some reason I struggled hard the first time that we started this, so we're gonna go ahead and give this a skip and come back later. We do earn the achievement Outer Peace for completing our first round of yoga though. One final update on money collection in this game if you're looking for a guide. There are these definitely unique looking sports cars that spawn in the various parking lots throughout the game, and if you collect these and bring these over to Jack Latour to Fence, you earn $150 for every single one, so this is definitely the fastest money making method in the game. Things are going pretty well for us junk collection wise, so we decide to finally go stop by the garage and do our first 7 upgrades all at once. This doesn't really matter, but it does slightly break the order of things. We earn the achievement Tiny Terry's Turbo Taxi for upgrading our car 5 times. This also gives us access to the boost ability, but it actually doesn't make the car any easier to handle, which is a little surprising. Another thing that's surprising is we are actually 100% space ready at this point. You only need a handful of upgrades to finish the game, so we could be done at this point, but obviously we're not ready for that yet. We're going to do everything before we finish the game. And after learning that we're basically in the end game at this point, surprisingly quickly, I do a quick inventory and realize that I've already collected all of the blueprints for the gummy pets as well. No guide needed, and we can go ahead and collect all of those to earn the achievement Must Catch Them All. And after some careful consideration, I choose which gummy pet is going to be my buddy throughout the rest of the game. We go ahead and equip it and earn the achievement Weird Dog. Then we're just walking around minding our own business when we encounter this lemon-looking guy named Ricky who doesn't seem super happy with us. It turns out that Ricky is the local youth of our class that's been cruising around in his souped-up turbo car, and he isn't super happy that we've been encroaching on his vibe. Yeah, seems like we're definitely in the wrong here, but you know, it's flattery, something like that. You know what the phrase is. This conflict ends in the same way that many of my conflicts do, a bumper car battle. Unfortunately, I didn't really understand what was happening here quick enough, and he beats us the first time around. But now, similar to a Yakuza game, Ricky is a guy that walks around the town and can randomly challenge us to a bumper car battle at any time that we see him. We stop back by Burning Birdie's section of the beach to find that he has in fact burnt up to ashes, which is very sad. But luckily for us, we did manage to salvage his sick pair of sunglasses from the wreckage, and we can now put these on in our hat slot. Unfortunately, we still need our junk detector hat for right now, but maybe later. So I pretty quickly stopped back by the garage one more time because I was a little bit concerned. We do just one upgrade this time, which fortunately earns us the achievement Turbo Time. You're supposed to get this when you upgrade your car for the first time, but I guess I bugged it when I did so many at once. I went ahead and stopped back by City Hall to check in on the group of guys yapping to see if we've progressed their questline forward, and it turns out that we actually have. They're complaining about how in debt the government is, and we need to collect 999 million money to pay off their debt. But luckily for us, we can convince them if we give them 999, they'll go ahead and throw 6 zeros on the back for some creative accounting, and then we can go ahead and solve the debt crisis. Easy enough. We'll come back later for that though, we still have some more purchases to make. There's not an achievement for this, but I did have a quest to score 5 goals in one game of Orange Soccer, and I just wanted to throw in here that after the first time I absolutely dominated these kids. Turns out that there's a much better solution. I was hitting the ball with the wrench, but you really want to kick it instead for maximum power, it seems like. After that, Ricky bumps into us for the first time, earning us the achievement Raging Ricky, and you know what time it is. We hop back into the battlefield, but this time we are much more successful, and we earn the achievement Bumper Carts is My Passion for defeating Ricky for the first time. This is definitely much easier once you know what's going on. Another side quest that I basically completely missed in this game is that Spoblepi is supposed to be our love interest who gives us a bunch of quests that we can go out and tasks to complete. We bring them back to her and we progress the conversation a little bit more. But at this point I've pretty much done everything, so it's just turning everything in and getting to the end. This would have been cool to do in real time though, I bet. And you know, we conquered our fear of talking to women, so we may as well go ahead and conquer our fear of doing yoga and get to a record-setting 15 yoga poses in a row to complete this quest line. The only guide I needed to look up for this game was the solution to the giant stone mushroom puzzle, and I completely missed finding these chimes, but when we collect the first one, we earn the achievement Mushroom Chime, Mushroom Chime. We were supposed to follow the sounds of chime and the visual cue of wind into those little circles, but I just missed it. We return to Spoblepi to have our final conversation where, you know, we're just trying to make conversation, and we say that it's nice we have something in common, both having pretty big heads. And for some reason she doesn't love that we said that, but at least we earn the achievement Suck at Flirting if we lost the girl. Cracking on with finishing up achievements, we go around to the 4 hat stores in the game and we start buying out the hat supply. But strangely enough, we don't actually need to buy all of the hats, as after we've bought a couple of them, we earn the achievement Hat Collector and we can actually be done with this, weirdly enough. Now that we've collected the 4 wind chimes off camera, we can return to the giant stone mushroom and finally complete this quest line. If it seems like this one was a little bit disjointed, sorry, I really just did not get any of the things that they were leading me towards, but eventually we talked to Mushroom God, who isn't actually Mushroom God, it's just the guy that was leading us in yoga before. He tells us that we've mastered the wind now or something, and now there are these cool little wind tunnels that we can follow for big rewards. This is neat, but the neatest thing about it is earning the achievement Inner Peace for completing this quest line. And you know, I didn't really follow this quest line super well, but these wind tunnels are actually pretty cool. There's 3 of them throughout the map, and we can stand in them and pull out our glider that will eventually take us on a long trip all the way around the map. In pretty cool fashion, we get a nice overhead view of a lot of areas we haven't seen from overhead at this point. And once we follow each of those wind tunnels to the end, we find another junk trash can that each have 100 junk inside of them, which take us a lot closer to finishing off the total junk collection. At this point, we are really at the very end of the game. We don't have any need for money left, so we go ahead and throw $999 to our local government, which earns us the achievement Big Spender for spending a lot of money. And after all of our yappers finish celebrating, we earn the achievement Model Citizen for paying off the government debt. And our reward is a great one. We get to take the hat from one of these government guys. Yeah, it's a super cool prize after all of that money. Just tying up loose ends at this point, we stop by Olger's hint shop one more time, actually for the second time. We didn't use any of his hints, so we completely missed his quest line that apparently he had, but he gives us the reward for finishing it up anyway, which is good because we need that junk to finish out the game. And after picking up Olger's prize, we are pretty much done with the game at this point. We just have a couple more junk to collect, and this seemed like it was going to be a pretty annoying task with just 15 remaining. But this process was actually surprisingly easy for me. Having bought the junk collector hat so early on in this game, I was pretty much collecting all of the one-off little junk that we missed as we played through the game, and there was just one little bundle of 15 left in a place we hadn't hit a ramp before, and once we get that, we earn the achievement Determination for 100%ing the game. Oh baby, that could have been a long grind. Our penultimate achievement is called Celebrated the Anarchy for hitting a concerning amount of people with a pipe, which is pretty easy to do if you just run through the populated areas of the game. So with all of that out of the way, we go ahead and purchase every single upgrade you can get for the taxi car, and we put on our cool guy shades now that we have no need for the junk detector hat anymore. And without further ado, we line ourselves up on the Sky Tower and drive directly up with our huge new boosting power, and this is the end of the game. We earn the achievement Go to Space, and we're really up there at this point. The game cuts to us up in space, making our call to Uncle Grani to tell him that we officially accomplished our goal of arriving in space, and he isn't super pleased with us. This actually leads to kind of a nice moment with our absentee parent uncle. Terry asks if everyone's talking about him now that he's made his way into space, but we didn't do a super good job advertising this event or really telling anybody that we were seriously going to do this, so nobody really knows that it happened. Grani tells us that this was a bad idea, and even though we were disappointed about our parents going on the special summer holiday without us, we shouldn't have been that upset and done something quite so rash. We should go through the effort of getting our grades up because it's an important thing to learn about. Even though it's pretty amazing that we had a goal that we set out to do and we actually managed to achieve it, maybe we should have thought about things a little bit more and not been so rash, something that maybe we could have learned in school. The game ends with Grani telling us to stay right where we are and he's gonna come pick us up. And then we cut to the credits that are maybe one of the best things about this game, where we get a simply put amazing montage of Grani going through the same journey as Terry, where he prepares his car to come up into space and then he rescues us and everybody celebrates. Overall, this game took me just under 6 hours to complete, though I could see it being quite a bit more than that if you were somebody that wasn't super organized in the way you were collecting junk, or if you missed out on getting the junk detector hat right at the start of the game. Also, this game doesn't really have like a post-game option. Once you've finished the game is finished and you would have to restart back over from the beginning to get all of the remaining achievements, which is definitely a little bit annoying. But I happened to look that up before I started the game, and so we kind of knew that going in. Overall, this game was definitely enjoyable. This was another 2024 release that I saw get a little bit of buzz upon its initial release on Steam, but this game could definitely be doing better. This is clearly an indie game with some very dedicated staff behind it, so I can't wait to see what this team does next, whether it's continuing in this world, which would be pretty great, or even making another game in this same sort of style. I would love either option, and I would definitely be checking those out in the future. And I hope you enjoyed watching this video as well as always, and I hope to see you next week. If you got anything you want to mention about this game in the comments down below, please feel free to leave those, or if you have any game suggestions that you'd like to see me check out, that's a great place for those as well. Thanks so much for watching. See you!